Champions Cup Saturday games, the three that ended up going ahead: Quins and Cardiff, Glasgow and Exeter, Munster and Castres. I've watched two of the three, although one of the ones I watched was Glasgow and Exeter. I'm not sure if watched is the right word you can use for that game when there was that much fog. But anyway, we'll go through some of the key events, some stats, some thoughts, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on the games. The first one, Harlequins and Cardiff, which I didn't watch in full, but did manage to catch up on the highlights, seems to be another case of Cardiff doing themselves proud with, a side full of, which is basically a makeshift side, wasn't it? Full of academy guys and youngsters and a few oldies as well. With the whole not being able to field a full squad with the COVID... guys coming out of quarantine and whatnot. First half, they score 3 tries. Again, they score first. They get a try 4 minutes through win it. It was your man Fish that set that up as well, which was quite pleasing. So 7 points to 0. But every time they would score, Harlequins would kind of hit straight back. Care got one like literally 2 minutes later. Plus, Josh Adams got yellow carded. It's hard to tell from the very brief highlight, but it seemed like, I think it was Tyrone Green may have jumped into him because that didn't seem like a natural, I don't do physics, but it didn't seem like a natural way to respond to getting tackled unless you're jumping. Do you know what I mean? Like, Adams kind of went in full body and Tyrone Green ends up kind of flipping over. And if you just bang into someone who's a bit bigger than you, usually you fall backwards, but he flipped over him, which means I'm assuming he was jumping. So, but anyway, Josh Adams gets yellow carded. But it doesn't matter because Cardiff still score the next try through both of them. They've got a man down, but they still managed to go ahead and score a try. They do miss the conversion, but they're back in front 12 points to 7 away from home. Man down, young side, but once again, Harlequins hit straight back. Smith with the line break. Plays a bit of a 1-2 with Dombrandt, who gives it back to Smith, and then Quinn's back in front. So they win the yellow card, but only by 2 points. And your man Cabango, he seemed as surprised as anyone to have gotten that try. He looked good last week, and he continued to look good, at least with his try. It was a weird one because Fish missed touch. I think it was Micah Smith that managed to keep it in. Quinn's attack, but immediately get turned over, and from like an offload, that turnover ball, Cabango tears down the left wing, beats I think Marchant initially, and then steps inside to go for a try. He looks as confused as everybody else, but it was a hell of a play, man. For a guy who's had a chance to step up, he certainly looked the business, at least from what the highlights show. I don't know how the rest of his game went, but yeah, that was certainly quite a magic try, that one. So it's 17 points apiece at half time, which is a bit of a moral victory to Cardiff. But the second half, Quinn seriously pull away and really blow the scoreline out. You get tries through Dombrandt, who gets 2, Marchant gets 1, and Esterhazen gets another one. Like the Marchant one, the second Dombrandt one was kind of like putting the game beyond doubt. And then the Esterhazen one was just, a bit of salt in the wound for the Cardiff guys, but really bit of a statement from the Quins guys to show kind of what they are about. So, you got to give credit to Cardiff for that first half, but also Quins for kind of not being too rattled. Whatever they said at halftime seemed to work, and they were able to kind of assert themselves. So, big victory, bonus point. I can guess that kind of meets expectations. And as I said, Cardiff can certainly hold their heads high, especially on that first half performance. Seems like it was a fun game. Run meters 404 to 394. Defenders beaten 27-16 in Quinn's favour, but clean breaks 8-5 in Cardiff's favour. So there was a fair bit of running going on. Turnovers 1. Quins get that 6-3. Penalties conceded. Quins have the better of the numbers, only conceding 6 to Cardiff's 12. Tyrone Green, 107 run meters. Josh Adams and Theo Cabango, both kind of 70 plus. Adams was 80 plus run meters. Both of them makes 13 from 14 tackles. Seb Davis, 13 from 15. Kenningham, though, 18 from 19 in Quinn's shift. So good effort from the number 7. 2 from 2 for Quins. Good start to the competition. Cardiff, a none from 2. They've been pretty well beaten both rounds, but given the situation, I think they can still be pretty pleased with how things have kind of gone. The second game, Glasgow and Exeter, like I said, the fog was thick. Very, very thick fog. Sometimes you literally could not see what on earth was going on. It was bizarre. There's one Super Rugby final which was like that. I forget which one it was. It's the Harlequins and the Crusaders. A long time ago. And you could barely see anything. I think it's called the fog final. Very much vibes of that for me. I'm not sure how much of this happens in the north, but it was very foggy. Glasgow had a 3-0 lead. There was a fair bit of high ball, I think, from guys trying to maybe fool the opposition by losing the ball in the fog, but it didn't seem to be working because there wasn't a lot of kind of handling errors anyway. By 18 minutes or so, it seemed to be clearing up a little bit, especially down Glasgow's end. But Exeter didn't have that much time down Glasgow's end, so it was kind of hard to tell. Down the other end, right on the first half of the screen anyway, from my vision at home, seemed to be foggier than the left. There you go, for what that's worth. Exeter did have a big period of pressure right before half time, but Glasgow managed to turn them over. Turner went close to scoring a try with a big old line break before half time as well, but I think it was O'Flaherty managed to kind of put in a bit of a try saver, kind of keep him from able to kind of get that last little roll on to get over the line. So, yes, 3-0 half time. 3-0, pretty low scoring. Second half, the ref has to lecture the props a wee bit, saying you guys are going to get yellow carded if you don't stop your mucking around, and he doesn't end up yellow carding anybody, so that's kind of good. The commentator used a slightly ironic, given the fog, line, saying it was a bright start to the second half. There wasn't a lot bright about it, but he was talking about Glasgow because they did start the second half with a fair bit of zip and pace, and the man Tuipulotu was looking pretty sharp. To be fair, they did put on a bit of pressure. They had a pretty easy shot at goal, but Thompson hit that one off the post, which given the circumstances could have been costly, but he got his next two, and it was Glasgow's scrum really getting on top. So 6-0, then 9-0, and then they got another scrum penalty. They were really, I wrote, better team in the second half. They made it 12-0. But interestingly, I thought Exeter were kind of dead and buried because when it went to 12-0, Glasgow mucked up the restart, knocked it on, and gave Exeter a prime opportunity down Glasgow's territory, which is a bit of the field that Exeter kind of struggled to get possession. But Exeter couldn't do anything from it, and I thought, if you can't do anything from this has got to be the game, because we're already talking, we're an hour plus into the game by this point. But in the final kind of 10-15 minutes, Exeter really find another gear. They went through a heap of phases, and I wrote, man, if they score here, it's still game on, and they did. They went 13 phases, and they powered over. Of course, it's Sam Simmons getting a try. I don't know how he did it. Again, fog, but somehow he got it done. So 12 points to 7. That's, suddenly, like, Glasgow have been leading since literally, whenever that first penalty was kicked. It was very early on. But they're suddenly one score away from being behind. But yeah, they managed to get the next penalty to just put it beyond that 7-point buffer. Again, it was the scrum not getting a penalty, but Dempsey a big carry off it, and then they managed to get a penalty not long later. So 15 points to 7, pressure penalty, but they kicked that one, so that was pretty much game over. And then they sealed it with a win, with a try at the end, 2 minutes from time. It was a more try than Matthews, so 22 points to 7. Looks pretty bloody comfortable there, man. So very good win for Glasgow. They weren't favourites at all for this one. When I looked at the lineups, I thought they should be competitive, but I didn't see a win coming. I will certainly admit that. Although I didn't see the fog coming either. So there you go. Possession is 55-45, territory 57-43. So Glasgow kind of dominating those areas of the game. Run meters 442 to 193. Tells a bit of a story. Penalties conceded 14 by Exeter, 6 by Glasgow. The scrum was big time an issue for Exeter in this one. Josefa Scott last week got a bit of the blame for it, but he wasn't there this week, and yet the scrum woes kind of continued a wee bit. I know they do have Harry Williams isn't available for at the moment. But that being said, despite all those kind of peachy stats for Glasgow, it's one try apiece. And as I said, if Exeter had been able to kind of continue on that momentum, they could have gone in front. But from a Glasgow point of view, fortunately, when their backs were against the wall and they lost the momentum, they were able to kind of wrestle it back. So credit to them for that, man. Dempsey gets player of the match. He has 48 run meters, 12 from 14 tackles. Good shift. Johnny Gray, 19 from 19 tackles. You kind of expect that kind of shift from him. But yeah, so Exeter and Glasgow are now both 1 win, 1 loss. The last one, Munster and Castres, was supposed to be a bit of a hiding. It ended up being a bit of a grind at times, this one. Kind of a very slow pace to the game. Yeah, it seemed a bit drawn out. And to be fair, because I got up in time to watch this one on demand, this one had started, I was overlapping them a little bit. I watched about the first half an hour of this one before this one started, kind of overlapped my watching them a bit on the old 2 screens. So maybe that was a good thing. I don't know, because I couldn't tell what a lot was going on with the fog in that one. And this one was kind of a slow enough paced game that you could watch the other one, and then when this one would kick off, you're going to go back to it. But yeah, not for the full game, but partly it was overlapped. Munster, like kind of Glasgow and their game, they got the scoreboard ticking early with a penalty, but there was no score for a long period after that. I thought this one was going to be 3-0 at halftime as well. There was a bit of a handbags moment early, afters or whatever you guys call it. One of the Castres guys pulled off one of the Munster guys' headgear, and then there was a bunch of pushing and shoving. The ref warned the guys to kind of settle down. They didn't seem to like each other very much. I'm not sure where all the bad blood comes from, but there wasn't anybody kind of yellow carded for anything stupid, so that was, I guess, kind of good. Munster did put on a heap of pressure. They had a heap of territory, but it was kind of still 3-0 to show for it. So yeah, just the kind of execution wasn't there. Where last week, with that young side against Wasps, they were kind of able to find that pass or, get that kind of turnover ball or whatever it was. It just wasn't that kind of game this week. I mean, they did double their lead on like 28 minutes when Healy kicked a penalty to make it 6-0. Peter Amani took a mark. Don't see that every day. I wish he'd taken the kick, but he didn't kick it. He passed it to somebody else. So that was kind of one of the highlights of the first half. Damien de Allende did go really close on 33 minutes. And then Munster kind of went through a few phases, and then he went close again. I thought he had scored. They did check for a knock on because, was it the 9 from Castres? Was kind of like sliding in, and his knee kind of bumped into De Allende's arm to dislodge the ball a bit. I thought it didn't dislodge it enough that he'd kind of lost control of it. I mean, maybe he'd lost control of it, but it always seemed to be kind of touching one of his arms at some point. I would have thought you kind of give benefit of the doubt to the attacking team, but they go with that one as a no try. They said there was separation. They looked at it for an absolute age. So they did give it as a knock on, but they went back for an advantage. So Munster take the 3 anyway. They would have preferred the 5 or the 7, but there you go. 9 points to 0. Castres did take a penalty before halftime to make it 9-3 as they went into the sheds. Second half, Castres took another shot. Long range one, they missed that one. They were kind of just keen to just go through the motions, seemingly. And the end of this game speaks a bit maybe to their mindset. But anyway, I'll get to that in a tick because Munster did look to have gone over in the corner. That one was on, what are we talking like, 57, 58 minutes? And it's another one where the TMO has to have a look at it for an age. It's O'Donoghue this time. Again, it's on-field, no try. They're looking for the separation. But this one, which the commentary team also mentioned that it doesn't kind of look as convincing as the De Allende one, and I was probably with them on that. But yeah, they gave it. They said there wasn't any separation and that his legs weren't in touch and everything was kind of all good. So I guess it kind of evens out. I don't know. Maybe they should have had 2. But either way, it's a try. It's a try to Munster. They finally kind of pressure paid off. So 16 points to 3. Castres did kick a penalty though about 4 minutes later to keep it within 10 points. So 16-6. And then, man, Rory Cockett was in a bad mood. He was talking to the ref, and the ref told him to go away, and he kept talking, and he marched him 10, and he kept talking, which was just almost like he's asking for trouble. And the referee called over his captain and said, if this guy keeps talking, he's going to leave the field. And I swear he kept talking, but I don't know what it is like. He felt aggrieved about something. But sometimes you just got to know when to keep your mouth shut, man. Like, the ref is right. Even when he's wrong, he's right. I don't know what it was about, but just, leave well enough alone, right? Munster take a penalty, so it's 19-6, pretty much game. Castres have to play the last kind of 8 minutes because one of their replacements gets injured and it's not an HIA, so they're not allowed to bring on anybody. But despite the fact that they don't seem to care that much, they do get a try through Cornath, the number 8, on 76 minutes, which is game on, although you wouldn't really know it because Udo Projeta takes a fair bit of time to take the conversion. So it's 19-13. You'd think because it's right in front, just knock it over. You could probably just drop kick it over. He still takes a good 30, 40 seconds. Weird. And then at the end, Castres need to go length of the field to win the game. And they just kick it out. Do they just... They want to get back to the top 14? I don't really understand it. Losing bonus points, sure. But they lost their first game, and it's the kind of competition where you can't really go on a losing run. There's not really time to come back. And if you're 19-13 down, chance to win it, to get a 1-1 record instead of an 0-2 record, wouldn't you take it? I don't know. It was just weird. Bizarre end to the game. So Munster, 19-13, I guess you take the win. You're a bit disappointed that you maybe didn't perform to the level expected, but you're 2 from 2 in Europe. Played last week in a pretty tough situation with the amount of players missing. Some players come back this week. It's unconvincing, but it's 2 from 2. So take it all the way to the bank. Sometimes it's the best teams that end up winning when they're not at 100%. That seemed to be the case this week. So run meters 256 to 146. That's kind of low, right, compared to the other games. Clean breaks 0 to Munster, 1 to Castres. Kind of speaks to the nature of the game. I mentioned it was a bit slow. Defenders beaten 19-7. Penalties conceded 12-13. So Munster beat a few defenders, but also conceded a few penalties. O'Donoghue doesn't get man of the match. That goes to Dale Ender, but he gets 10 from 10 tackles, 34 run meters. Gets the try. Good shift from him. The flanker Mika for Castres has 10 from 10 tackles as well. This number 8, the guy Cornath, has like 21 run meters, which was among the most for Castres. So, bizarre end to the Saturday. Remember, there were a couple of games postponed. We'll kind of have to wait and see what happens with that. I'm still a bit muddled up about why some of the games get postponed and why some of them get 28-0. But we'll kind of wait and see what the tournament organisers can sort out. They're in a pretty difficult situation with governments making travel restrictions and whatnot, so we'll just kind of wait and see. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on the games. Obviously, congratulations to Glasgow. They weren't expected to that one, but got a big win. Cardiff, well fought first half, albeit a good result for Quins at the end of the day. And Castres maybe gave a better account from themselves. If they're fussed about it, not sure. But ultimately, Munster 2 from 2 in Europe and looking fine. So, you guys have any thoughts? And I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.